Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, right? And before you even open your eyes, you realize something fundamental has just shifted.
Like you're suddenly hyper aware of everything.
Exactly. You feel um, profoundly, almost terrifyingly sharper.
Yeah.
Like you're 70% sharper than normal. You take a breath and you notice you aren't just inhaling air, you are literally tasting the oxygen in the room.
Yeah, it's an incredibly overwhelming premise when you really put yourself in those shoes.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then, you step outside, and the morning breeze doesn't just brush your skin. It feels like a solid physical force interacting with your body. Basically, you're experiencing the world with the volume knob ripped entirely off the console.
Which forces you to confront just how much of reality we are constantly shielded from. I mean, by our own biology.
Yeah. And that's exactly the mission for today's deep dive.
Mhm.
Welcome, everyone. We're opening up some fascinating excerpts from a text simply titled Text to investigate this neurological phenomenon known as sensory transparency.
Right, we're looking at what happens to a human mind when it operates without those natural filters most of us rely on to, dull the world around us.
And we should set the tone right away here.
Yeah.
This isn't some Marvel superpower, but the text doesn't treat it like a debilitating curse either. It's just a completely different wiring, a different lens for absorbing reality.
Yeah, to really grasp the magnitude of sensory transparency, we have to first look at the brain's default setting. For the vast majority of us, the brain is performing this relentless, invisible task called sensory gating.
Sensory gating.
Right. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism, essentially.
Okay, let's break down the mechanics of that. Because, I mean, if I'm sitting here right now, I'm focusing on your voice, I'm looking at my notes, but there are 1,000 other things happening in this room that I'm completely ignoring.
Because your brain is actively suppressing them. Think about the physical sensation of the clothes resting on your shoulders right now.
Oh, weird. Okay, yeah, until you just mentioned it. I complete. Didn't feel my shirt.
Exactly. Your brain also registered the hum of the air conditioning, the slight shift in temperature, the ambient light reflecting off the desk. But there's a structure in your brain, primarily the thalamus, and it acts like a bouncer at the door of your conscious awareness.
A bouncer. I like that.
Yeah, it looks at the feeling of your shirt and says, we've felt this for the last 3 hours. It's not a threat. It's not food. It's totally irrelevant. And it just drops the signal.
So the bouncer just throws that data straight into the trash.
Mhm.
That way the VIP section, like my conscious attention doesn't get overcrowded.
Precisely.
So wait, exactly how much of our sensory input is getting blocked at the door like that?
Oh, an astronomical amount. I mean, we're talking about millions of bits of sensory data per second hitting your nervous system, and your conscious mind is only processing maybe 50 of them.
Just 50. Wow.
Yeah. The brain is basically a prediction machine that desperately wants to conserve energy. Processing data requires glucose. It requires real metabolic effort. So by gating out the repetitive, non-threatening background noise, your brain saves massive amounts of energy.
Energy for like actual problem solving and threat detection.
Right, exactly.
Which brings us to the crux of the excerpts from text. What happens when that bouncer goes on strike?
Well, the text describes sensory transparency as a state where that gate is permanently wedged open.
Wedged completely open. So the brain is no longer sorting data into, important and junk folders.
Okay, let's unpack this. Is sensory gating basically like a spam filter for the brain?
That's a perfect analogy, actually.
Because without that filter, every single piece of junk mail, like a ticking clock or a car driving by outside, it lands in the main inbox marked as urgent. It just overwhelms the system.
And that completely alters the physiology of perception. If every single piece of data is treated as high priority, your nervous system is trapped in the state of constant full capacity response.
Right. So the ambient noise of a distant highway isn't just background static anymore. It demands the exact same cognitive processing power as, say, someone shouting your name directly in your ear.
Oh, wow. So the environment isn't just something you observe.
No, it's an event. It's an event that is happening forcefully to you every single second of the day. You don't just hear or see it, you absorb
I'm
it.
trying to visualize the physical toll of that. I mean, if my brain is normally running a basic text editor, just processing the bare essentials, having an open gate, sounds like trying to render a 4K 3D movie in real time.
24 hours a day.
Yeah, 24 hours a day without a cooling fan, the hardware would just overheat.
The metabolic tax is staggering. You are burning through cognitive resources at an incredible rate because your brain is trying to construct a cohesive reality out of this unfiltered fire hose of data.
A fire hose.
And when the nervous system is running that hot under that much pressure, the data has to go somewhere. The normal pathways simply aren't wide enough to handle the bandwidth.
Okay, this directly connects to what I thought was the most surreal detail from the source text. Moving from how the gates stay open to what actually happens when all those unfiltered signals collide.
Right, the cross-wiring.
Yeah, because the author talks about tasting the oxygen. And honestly, when I first read that, I assumed it was just beautiful, poetic writing, just a metaphor for a really crisp, clean morning.
But the source material is adamant that this is not a metaphor, not at all. It is a literal mechanical phenomenon known as cross-modal perception, or synesthetic overlap.
Synesthetic overlap. So their nervous system is actually translating the chemical purity of the air into a gustatory, like a taste sensation.
Exactly.
I'm stuck here. How does a gas become a flavor? I mean, our noses and mouths are connected, sure. But how does the brain mistake a smell for a taste just because the signal is strong?
Well, we have to look at the physical architecture of the brain for that. The neural pathways for olfaction, which is smell, and gustation taste, they are incredibly close to each other. They share neural real estate in areas like the insular cortex. Now, in a typical brain, the signals travel down these neatly insulated parallel pathways, but in a transparent brain, the sensory input isn't just a trickle. Like I said, it's a tidal wave.
Right. So because the data isn't being gated, the volume of information flooding the olfactory system is just too massive for that one specific pathway to contain.
Precisely. The signal physically overflows. The high-definition data regarding the absolute cleanliness of the air floods the primary pathway, and the sheer electrical energy of that signal cascades into the neighboring circuitry.
Oh, man. Here's where it gets really interesting. Is this like wires crossing on a circuit board?
That's a great way to put it.
Because the current is running so hot, it literally burns through the insulation between two parallel wires. The signal jumps the track.
It jumps the track. The brain is trying to process an overwhelming amount of data about the air quality, and it essentially recruits the gustatory system to help categorize it.
So an olfactory input comes in, but because the electrical current is so massive, it arcs over and triggers a taste output. A scent literally becomes a texture.
A cool breeze becomes a flavor, yeah. That cross-wiring is the absolute hallmark of transparency. It's an elegant, complex adaptation by a brain that's just trying to manage an unmanageable load of data.
But while it creates these moments of profound high-definition beauty, it also explains the severe physical exhaustion that the text dwells on.
Definitely. The text uses the phrase tired wired, which feels incredibly accurate based on what we just discussed about the nervous system running hot.
Tired wired, yeah. You are physically depleted from the metabolic drain of processing all this data, but you can't sleep or relax.
Because your nervous system is lit up, it's constantly tracking new, quote-unquote, urgent inputs. This source material actually paints a very bleak picture of the daytime for someone with this trait.
Yeah, it refers to the daytime environment as being cluttered with bad air and data.
Bad air. And it's clearly not talking about smog or pollution in the traditional sense.
No, it's talking about data pollution. If your sensory gates are wide open, a typical sunny Tuesday afternoon in a city is an absolute nightmare of overlapping signals.
Just think about the physics of a normal day. You have the glaring multi-spectrum radiation of sunlight reflecting off every surface. You have the thermal output of pavement and buildings, the mechanical hum of engines, the erratic movement of crowds, the overlapping frequencies of a dozen different conversations all at once.
For a brain without filters, that isn't just a vibrant background. It's an aggressive assault. I think the text describes it as feeling like a nonstop shouting match.
A shouting match, yeah. It's pure chaos. You are forced to actively process the trajectory of every car, the pitch of every voice, the temperature shift of every single shadow, all at the exact same time.
The autonomic nervous system must be in a permanent state of fight or flight. So what does this all mean for daily life? It sounds like navigating the daytime is like trying to hold a conversation in the middle of a crowded, screaming stadium.
It really is. The brain is constantly interpreting this jagged, unpredictable data as potential threats, which spikes your cortisol and adrenaline. And that's exactly why the text highlights the profound, almost spiritual relief that comes with the night.
The night. Yeah, the transition from the day to the night in the text is jarring. The night is described as a sanctuary.
And mechanically, that makes perfect sense now, doesn't it?
It does. The sun goes down, instantly eliminating a massive percentage of the visual data. The temperature stabilizes, which simplifies the tactile feedback. The mechanical hum of society basically powers down.
The environmental bandwidth drops from a roaring, chaotic orchestra to just a single, clear instrument. The text calls it a sharp solo.
A sharp solo. So if the daytime is that crowded stadium, the night is like sitting in an empty auditorium listening to a single, clear acoustic guitar.
Beautifully put. The darkness and the cool breeze represent pure, linear inputs. The nervous system can finally start bracing for impact and actually process the environment linearly.
Okay, so if the daytime is an exhausting shouting match of jagged data, and the night provides relief simply through emptiness, that brings us to the most counterintuitive part of the text.
The ocean.
The ocean. The source identifies the ocean as a crucial reset button for a transparent mind. But wait, if they are so easily overwhelmed by noise, why does a roaring ocean help instead of hurt?
Right.
I mean, the wind is aggressive, the waves are deafening, the water is freezing. How does that not cause an immediate sensory meltdown?
It's a fascinating paradox, really, but it hinges entirely on the difference between volume and complexity.
Volume versus complexity. Okay.
Think about it. A city street might actually be lower in raw decibels than a crashing wave, but the city street is jagged. The inputs are totally unpredictable.
A car horn over here, a drop cup over there, a flashing neon sign.
Exactly. The brain is forced to rapidly switch its attention 100 times a minute, evaluating each new chaotic input for danger.
Oh, I get it. The unpredictability is the actual threat. The brain hates surprises because surprises require sudden energy expenditure.
Yes. The ocean, by contrast, is massive and loud, but it is cohesive. It is a single, continuous, unified physical force. The text introduces this as the concept of good noise.
Good noise. Okay, I think I can deduce the logic here. It's like using a powerful white noise machine to mask 100 tiny, irritating sounds.
Exactly like that.
Like if I'm trying to sleep in a drafty old house, every single creaking floorboard or whistling pipe makes my brain spike with alertness. But if I turn on a heavy fan, which is technically much louder than the floorboard, I fall right asleep.
Because the fan is a wall of predictable sound.
Right. It occupies my auditory bandwidth so completely that the little jagged, unpredictable noises can't get through. The rhythm is what makes it safe to absorb.
You've hit on the exact mechanism there. The ocean provides a sensory input that is so large, so rhythmic, and so mathematically pure that it fills the open gates of the transparent brain completely.
It just washes the overloaded system clean.
It really does. It utilizes the entire bandwidth of the nervous system, but it does so without triggering the threat response cycle. It literally drowns out the chaotic static of the rest of the world.
It's a sanctuary of scale.
Right.
The data isn't chaotic, it's just big. And because it's a rhythmic, predictable pattern, the brain doesn't have to burn energy trying to predict what it will do next. It can just think with it.
And this brings us to the duality at the heart of the text excerpts. We spent a lot of time discussing the extreme physiological tax of this condition, right? The fatigue, the data pollution, the overwhelming nature of a simple Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
But the author concludes on a note of intense reverence.
The golden hour. Yeah, the text makes a point to emphasize that while the burden of an open gate is heavy, the reward is a depth of human experience that is almost impossible to articulate.
Because when someone with sensory transparency stands by that resetting ocean or steps out into the crisp air of a quiet morning, they aren't just observing a beautiful scene. They aren't just looking at a sunrise, thinking it's pretty, and then returning to their internal monologue.
Right, because there's no barrier between them and the environment. Without those sensory gates, they are in direct, visceral communion with the atmosphere.
Their nervous system is physically absorbing the purity of the world.
The coolness of the air, the rhythm of the water, the chemical perfection of the oxygen, it's all interacting directly with their biology in high definition. It's a level of purity and presence that most of us, safely tucked behind our thalamus bouncers, will just never fully understand.
It really forces us to realize that reality is entirely dictated by the mechanical limits of our perception. We walk around assuming our version of a street or a breeze or morning is the objective truth.
That's not.
Not at all. This text proves that our reality is just a highly edited, low-resolution summary provided by a brain that's just trying to save energy. For the transparent mind, the world is undeniably heavier and more exhausting, but it is also vibrating with a richness and clarity we can barely imagine.
That is a staggering thought to end on. We just spent this deep dive exploring the sheer exhaustion and the incredible beauty of a mind that cannot filter anything, but your mind can. Right now, your brain is actively editing your reality, constantly dulling the edges of the world to protect you from being overwhelmed.
Do it right this second.
Exactly. So, if our brains are constantly utilizing sensory gating to dull the world, as you go about the rest of your day, look around your environment and ask yourself, what beautiful, complex, visceral details in the room with you right now is your brain completely filtering out?
It's a great question to mull over.
It really is. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.